Welcome, Deborah. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for me, but evening for you in France.
Nice to see you, Nancy. Thanks for inviting
Yes,
me.
yes. So we go way back to more than 20 years ago when we were in the MBA program together at
hmm
Cal State Los Angeles.
Yes, it's been quite a while.
It has maybe 25 years or so. So it's great that we stay in touch. I'm interviewing today because so many Americans have moved out of the US, and you're one of them. Is that correct?
Yes, I am now in Bordeaux.
You're in Bordeaux, France.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
can you share a little bit about your journey, where you started, how you got there?
Well, I've always loved France, and I always planned to retire here. During COVID, like everyone else, my job kind of got turned upside down because I was also working in real estate, but working for large real estate developers as a project director. And so when the whole shutdown happened, my sales team could not get into the building. So that presented a very difficult and unique problem for me to find ways to show the properties, but not be inside the building. So that proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back, quite frankly.
Yeah, and that was in Northern California, right?
Yes, yes, in San
Yeah.
Francisco. So I left that firm in June of 2020,
Mhm.
and I started looking for other ways to make a living. I was, kind of getting a little tired of working in the corporate space and have always been a bit entrepreneurial. And so during that, I started looking at potentially moving abroad and having a retreat center or a boutique hotel or something like that. So that's kind of where this first started, this first iteration.
Mhm.
So when travel finally opened up, along with my previous partner, we went to France because there was a property there that was for sale that would be perfect for a retreat center. But we'd also planned some time with friends and family in Spain. So we made a road trip. And along that road trip from Spain up into the Dordogne region of France, we stopped by Bordeaux. And I absolutely fell in love with this city. I've been to France dozens of times, mostly in Paris. But coming to Bordeaux, it had everything I loved about Paris, but was much smaller and the people were much friendlier. So that's kind of where I first got introduced to the city.
Fantastic. What a journey. So it sounds like there are challenges when we move to a new place and things are different from what we expect, even if we do research.
Yes. I
Yes.
always find it shocking when people move here sight unseen. I belong to a lot of expat groups and I'm really shocked, especially when people buy property when they've
Mm,
never visited the city. Like when we went and saw the property in the Dordogne, it was absolutely stunning. It was everything represented in the photos and more. But when we actually went to the local village, which would be where we would be doing our shopping and socializing and that sort of thing, it was pretty dead. And
mhm.
there weren't really enough amenities. And we really realized that we would go stir crazy being in such a remote area. Um, so yeah, I think it's important if you're going to uproot your life that doing a little exploration trip beforehand is much wiser.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because in real estate, it's all about location,
It
right?
really is, no matter
It
where you
really
are in
is.
the world.
Yeah. We
Yeah, and
might
it's
see
not
our
just the
dream
location
property.
of the house, but yeah, I mean, but it's what amenities are, within walking distance, which amenities are worth within 10 miles, but even more importantly, like where's the local airport?
Right.
Where will that connect you? Because that's another thing, living
Mhm.
in Bordeaux, there is a regional airport, but outside of Europe, there's really not a lot of places I can have a direct flight to. So, that's something also that I'm getting used to because, I've lived in LA and San Francisco where, it's pretty easy to get a direct flight to most large cities in the world. So,
I see. Yeah, so
yeah.
Bordeaux is both a region and a city.
Exactly. Yes. So
Okay.
Bordeaux has a city, which I live in the city center. And then, of course, outside the city center, there are, countryside areas that, are where the vineyards and the chateaus and all of those things that people think of when they think of Bordeaux, France. So
Right.
it is a very urban area where I live. So it's like a
Oh,
normal city. Yeah.
okay. So do you know the population of Bordeaux? Just to give us an
I
idea, is
don't,
it
but
half a
I do know
million
it's
or less?
I don't know in the actual city center,
Hmm.
but it's the fifth largest city in France. So
Oh,
it is a
really?
major city in France. Yes, yes.
Fifth largest city. So it's up with Lyon and some of those
Oh,
other
yes.
cities
Toulouse.
we've heard of. Okay.
Yeah.
Fifth
And
largest city.
it's a lot like San Francisco versus the Bay Area. If you talk about just Bordeaux City,
Hmm.
it's somewhat small, like San Francisco in geographical miles. But then if you talk about the region, it's much larger.
I see.
So,
I see. So the city itself is bigger than, say, the city of Napa.
oh gosh, yes, much, much, much
Okay,
bigger.
it's not like that because I thought it was almost like Napa and then
Yeah,
surrounded
that's what
by
people think.
vineyards.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. That's what most people picture because that's kind of
right.
that's what I thought when we stopped here.
Uh-huh.
I thought I thought exactly that, but it's actually a very old city. Um, they did a major overhaul of the city in I want to say the late 1600s. I might be getting a date wrong on that, but it was like hundreds of years ago. And they mainly did that because there was more commerce coming through the city because of the vineyards and then other sorts of industry. And so the mayor, or whatever they call it, during that time, did a massive renovation and knocked down every building along the river and built these massive facades. It's absolutely stunning
Mm,
and very grand. So when you're coming down the river, it probably goes on for, I don't know, 3 miles, 3 miles of just facade of these very grand limestone buildings. Um, and then I think in the late 90s, the mayor at that point did a massive renovation to restore the buildings. So it's now a UNESCO heritage site.
oh,
So they're very particular about, what people do to their buildings.
very nice. I can tell from your smile that you're happy to be there and it feels nice. How is it to, make friends for kind of a foreigner? Do you find that it's easy to meet
Ah,
people or not easy?
well, I will say when I was in Brighton, I assumed it was going to be very easy to meet people because I spoke the language.
Hmm.
And when I found that to be very tricky, I mean, it probably doesn't help with what's going on in America and our politics. People have a lot of opinions about America right now, especially Europeans.
Yes.
So, despite me letting them know I was moving abroad, prompted by what was going on in America, I expedited, my timing. They still weren't always the friendliest. And and Brighton is a little bit different than London. It's on the seafront. It's about an hour south of London, so it's not quite as cosmopolitan, but it's very progressive. And so I just thought I would get along fabulously because I thought it would be like San Francisco,
Hmm.
and I thought the people that were there would be like people in San Francisco. But unfortunately, they weren't, and they weren't as open to foreigners. And so through that experience, I realized that when I moved to Bordeaux, because my language skills are terrible, that I would have to embrace the expat community, which I wasn't really willing to do in England because I felt like I didn't move to England so I could hang out with a bunch of Americans. But that was incredibly naive well, no, it wasn't naive. It was completely ignorant on my part. I don't know why when I think of expats, I think of Americans. Like if you're wanting to go to a place with English speakers, I'm thinking, oh, they'll be American or Australian or, you know. But when I came to Bordeaux, I beforehand I started looking into these expat groups and that sort of thing. So fortunately, on Facebook, I found a English speakers in Bordeaux group,
Mhm.
and through that, I was invited to an English coffee group. So once again, I thought, oh, English coffee group, it's going to be British people getting together for coffee. But okay, at least I'll speak English. And I got there my very first Saturday here, and I was so pleasantly surprised to see what it was is a coffee group of people who want to practice their English. So the people there were actually very international, and English was just the common language that we were speaking. And even more pleasantly surprised to find a lot of French people within the group. So I was super happy to see that I could meet these people from all over the world, locals, and speak English.
How
You know,
fun.
yeah.
That
So I
that
met,
completely surprises me. I
it
would not
surprised me
expect that
too.
either. Yeah, and
It
that's exactly what you want, is people who want to speak English with you and you can learn French from them.
exactly.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, so that was a major win very, very early on.
So tell me about the real estate. Do you ever look at houses or condos that you might want to buy in the future if you settle there
I
long
do.
term?
I do. And I definitely would like to stay in the city. Um, Probably forever, even though, it always sounds romantic to buy a property in the country. But, I don't know, maybe one day if I ever get partnered up, I might do that. So I could have a bunch of dogs and little animals and things. But in the near term, my goal is to buy a place here. Once I get my 10-year residency card. Before that, I just think, it's I'd rather not buy something and then have to sell it at a time that maybe wouldn't be the best because I'm not able to stay.
That makes total sense. So there's such a thing as a 10-year residency card you can get and have more permanence in France.
Yes. And then of course, ultimately I would like to get my citizenship here.
Wonderful. Wow. Just like George Clooney and his family.
Yes. Of
Yeah,
course, it'll be a little harder because I'm not famous and wealthy.
right, right. So yeah, that's great. So you would like to buy a place in town. Do you know what that's like? Do you ever see open house signs or that's just not done there?
See open house signs per se, but they have a ton of real estate offices,
Oh,
and they are similar to the States in that they put their listings in the window. And so, of course, and I do an hour walk every morning, and I have a similar route each day, and it's because I'm in the city.
mhm.
Uh, I pass, oh, I don't even know, probably a half a dozen real estate offices. So I'm always looking to see if maybe they posted something new, just to get a general feel of what things
Right.
cost. But
Yeah.
it is exponentially cheaper here, like
Oh,
exponentially.
wow.
Not even
Okay,
night and
well,
day. It's
that's
night and
nice.
day. It's night and day.
Like a
Yeah.
third of the price of what you would encounter in California for the same thing, a third, or what do you think?
Gosh. Yeah, about a third. About a
Okay,
third. Yeah.
that's
Um,
appealing.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And I feel like there's more character properties here.
yeah.
There's not a lot of, in large cities throughout the United States that have newer developments, they're kind of cookie cutter. But
Hmm.
here, because of the fact that a lot of these properties have been redone inside, but the facades are still the same,
Hmm.
they've gotten very creative inside. And of course, there's like 20-foot ceilings and a lot of times they will keep the wood flooring and other materials that were used in the original structure. They'll reuse those, but just refurbish them. So it's quite, yeah, quite
That's
interesting. Some of the properties I've seen.
That's nice. So well-restored properties,
Oh, beautiful.
fraction of
Yeah.
the price of,
Yes.
California prices. So that's very nice. Okay. Well, now that we've chatted about real estate, what about your business? Tell me how we can send clients
Well,
to you.
that is something that I am really just trying to evaluate now. The first 3 months I was here, I was on a travel visa.
Mhm,
And so I couldn't really work. But in the time that I left the States last spring, and now I have decided that I closed my e-commerce business at the end of last year.
mhm,
Between the tariffs and shipping and that sort of thing, it just really killed my business.
mhm,
It just made it impossible. And so I made that decision. But while I had that business, I was still doing marketing consulting
mhm.
and mostly working with real estate clients, real estate developer clients. But I also started working with a lot of small business people that I met through my e-commerce groups.
Mhm,
And I really found I really enjoy that a lot. And
mhm.
so, and also that is a little easier to do remotely. And so that's something I've been trying to move more in that direction. But between all of the visa process and moving and all of that, I really have had my focus pulled 1,000 different directions. So, I just got back to Bordeaux about 2.5 weeks ago, and I got my visa pretty quickly. And so, allowed to work here. And so I started being a bit more proactive. And so, started reaching out with my network of people I know. Mainly what I want to do is more advisory work for small
Mhm.
business, kind of in the intersection of marketing, but also business,
Yeah.
because that is one thing I have noticed working with other e-commerce business owners is that most people tend to start those types of businesses out of a passion that they had,
Yeah.
whether they're a jewelry designer and that's their art, or whether it's a hobby that they really enjoy. Um, a lot of people start their businesses that way. And so the whole marketing and business side of business, is not really maybe their skill set.
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that can do your digital ads or run your email programs or whatever, or run your social media accounts. But I noticed one area where a lot of small business people struggle is really understanding the finance of business.
Mhm.
So many people within these groups that I was friends with, we'd start talking and they're like, yeah, my sales have doubled, but I'm just not making any more money. I just don't
Right.
understand. And then I'd be like, well, what's your
And
margin? And they're like, margin. And then what they would tell me, I'm like, I think that's your margin. I think that you're meaning your markup. I don't think that's your margin. And so
right.
then I would start talking to these terms and like, well, my bookkeeper didn't really tell me. And I'm like, well, your bookkeeper shouldn't be telling you that. You should be, understanding your finances a little better. And so I would help them walk through, putting together a P&L and understanding what that means. Um, and I found it really rewarding. I've worked mostly with big, large corporations my whole career. So,
Mhm.
you know, we're all kind of speaking the same language most of the time. Um, but with small business people, I just find it so much more rewarding
It is.
to
It is.
help them. So,
Yes, you're dealing with the owner, and you touched on the two weakest areas of owners, and that is the marketing, because people just don't have the time or the interest in marketing and being out there all the time and consistent with marketing or having a plan. And secondly, it's the profitability. I hear that all the time. People get a staging business, but they spend so much on the furniture and the warehousing costs and such that they're not really turning a profit, even though they're very successful in the marketplace. So
exactly.
you can't do this stuff for free forever. You got to turn a
That's
profit.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times, people just don't account for all of those little costs.
Right.
Being a consultant the last 25 years,
Mhm.
I mostly worked in the role of brand marketing and product management and launching new brands,
Mhm.
and have run the project from beginning to end and managed the cross-functional team and all of that. And I love that part. But stepping into a more advisory sort of role with a small business owner, where you do have to respect why they're doing some things. Sometimes people are just how they are, and you can't totally change them, but you can also present different ways of doing things that maybe are a better use of their time or a better use of their money. But that's been one thing that for myself I've had to really refine in my personality.
Right. That makes
Because
sense.
I'm used to being the person brought in to be like, well, here's how we're going to do it. And this is exactly how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to succeed. And then I hit the ground running and I go. But sometimes dealing with personalities, of different small business people, I've realized that, this is their passion. This is their livelihood. This is their
Yep.
life. You know, it's
Right.
not just a way to turn a buck for them.
Correct.
Uh,
Yes. Not just a business. Yes. Just like a
yeah,
home, a house is not just a house. It's not a commodity. It means something to people. So a lot of things are symbolic. Food,
yes,
everything.
that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. Exactly. Yes, yes,
So
definitely.
what would you give as a final tip if you could give one tip to somebody who wants to move out of the US, because that's what they'd like to do? What do you
Okay.
suggest they do now that you've had that experience?
Gosh. Okay, well, I first off, I would suggest really researching which countries are easiest to get a visa,
Mm,
because I never anticipated it would be so hard to get a work visa as an entrepreneur in England. I
mm,
really did. I did consult with some attorneys beforehand, and I just felt like they didn't have enough experience with what I was doing. They worked with more large corporations.
mm.
But then when I was actually in England, I found an immigration attorney that works mainly with entrepreneurs. And so I knew he knew what he was talking about. And there was just really no way to make that happen if I wasn't a tech company or didn't have, millions upon millions of dollars of investment. It just wasn't going to happen. So that would be the first step. I think
Hmm.
Americans sometimes realize how hard it is to immigrate.
Right, right.
And then the other tip would be you can only plan so much.
Mhm,
And there's never a right time to do it. There really isn't. It's never going to be easy. It's never going
mhm,
to be. So you just have to decide whether you want it more than you want to stay in your comfort in the US.
mhm. That's a great
Yeah.
tip. Yeah, there's never a perfect time. Just when you're ready, go for it, and you are going to figure it out
Yeah. But
from your
definitely I
environment.
think dial in the job. If you need to work, dial in the job situation first. Like, I wasn't naive enough to believe that I was ever going to come here and work at the level I work in the US with my very lacking French skills. So I'm able to have my business here, still work with US clients,
Mhm.
and run my business remotely.
Right.
So, I think I do see some people doing that. They come here and then they're shocked that they can't work. Some people don't realize that you can't work here on a long stay visitor visa.
Mm,
Even if you're working remotely, you're technically not supposed to be working on a long stay visitor visa.
I see.
So yeah, it's really important to know that up front.
Right. I can imagine. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing your story, your personal story, and your great smile. It's such a pleasure to talk to you.
So
Appreciate
lovely
your
talking
time.
to
Yes. Okay.
you.
All the best in Bordeaux.
Thank you. Have a great
And
day.
you too.